if one didn't know how many slices they were going to have ahead of time, is there a way that you can kind of treat it as a collection and then like do something across, very similar to how you would like do a grid of squares? Um, you know, like a grid pattern, for instance, and then like
Technically,
do a random across it. Like basically make each one do something algorithmically almost, rather
so
than having to like know and wire up each one of those split channels.
so let's say you didn't have this. Is that what you mean? Like you're saying, I don't have my slices. I don't know what my pattern would look like. Um,
Yeah, or if you didn't like wire up each of those out of the split, like is there a way to do something to all of them like the same way you treated the pattern in the last example? I don't know if wire even treats slices like a pattern. Maybe it's something completely different, but that's kind of where
it,
my brain naturally goes to next.
so you wanted to play on its own randomly, or play on its own like how specifically?
So
Like,
like let's like think about your last example where each of the squares like was given like a random color.
mm-hmm.
Would there be a way to do that with the sliced in where, rather than have to like wire up channels 0 through 4, like let's say as you added more slices, you wanted that to just get a random color in your, in the range of colors you selected. Um, I guess my question is there a way to treat it the same way like you did with your square patterns?
Technically, I think there would be. Like, you could, in theory, what you could do is instead of doing it like that,
Mm-hmm.
like the checkerboard, you could, in theory, set the colors up. So, well, I mean, the easiest way would be like linear, right? And then, but see, the only thing is you would still need to know how many pieces to set, right? That's the only disadvantage there, right?
That's the trick.
So if you knew that, like, for instance, there's 10 here, I could technically just connect it like that. And then if I'm not mistaken, then I get 10, but does that fade through? So that's the only thing. Like, it doesn't go between. I think I understand what you're saying. Like, you want to be able to take these and not have to, like, split them up, just have it do it on its own.
Yeah, exactly. So like, you know, thinking of like your last example where each of those squares in the grid, you just kind of gave it a color and it didn't really one like you didn't have to necessarily know how many squares there were ahead of time. You could
Right.
like even have that as a parameter and then it just does it across all of them.
Yep. You could, but if that were the, well, okay, so like you could do, but that's not a shape, I don't think. So would you have to do it like this, and then do shape renderer, and then connect that to there, then connect this to here, change this to color, and then change this to like red or blue or orange. But again, like, so like that.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
But the
That
problem is
that's
that
exactly
you have to know how many
how
slices you have.
many. Oh, maybe there's a way to pull out like count out of the slice in or something.
Oh, you mean like, say, slice info,
Oh yeah.
like this, and then connect this here, and then, but does that tell me? Yes, it does, right there. Oh, and of course it won't let me connect it.
It'd be too easy.
um, Inputs,
I think these
string,
are
no,
I think I'm starting to have like flashbacks to when I was trying to figure
to
this kind of stuff out.
to texture to float is that's an integer. and you can't go to an integer. And this is a shape 2D to data, maybe? I don't think that'll work, but I'm gonna try it anyways. Shape. No. Okay. Size. Yes. Okay, look. Shape to size.
Oh, sweet.
Sorry. I was like, I
Cool.
had to really think about that because I was like, what is that darn
Yeah.
thing called?
So this actually kind of raises a question for me. Coming from the touch designer world, one of the things I have to say touch designer does well is, you have the ability to just like look up like the web page for each operator, and then, it has like basically the whole page on what it does and even like the Python and all that behind it. Um, is there something like that on the wire side to kind of like track down the documentation of like, where could I read about like what that shape 2D
This
data
is
type
one of
is?
This is one of my number one gripes about Wire. Is documentation is lacking. I've talked with them. I'm a part of their Slack channel, and I've actually discussed that with them multiple times. At one point, I was actually thinking about making. Well, I'll show it to you. OneNote. I started taking what they gave to us as like their skeleton of all their data. So where is it? This is the node directory that they gave to us, which is just basically all the different nodes, and then there's a description, like a brief description. But a lot of this brief
Oh,
description is already given to you in the system. Like it
got it.
explains a little bit, which is good. It does explain some of it, but this is really what you see here is what you get. There are examples. Any of these nodes, if you click on a node and then right click on it and say open up example patch, it'll open up an example patch of it. As a matter of fact, I'll do that. But let me save this because this is. I know somebody else is going to ask me about slices, and I'll be like, I already have a patch set up, so let's talk about that. Give me one sec. Sorry about that.
No,
Slices.
this is good stuff.
And we'll just leave it as is for now. I'm going to set it for 16, save, slices, save. Okay, so if there's like a specific, like slices, we'll do slices. If you open up the example patch, it'll ask if you want to save it, and then it'll open up an example of how they use that. They'll give a brief description here about how it works, but this is pretty much all the data that you're going to get. Like they give you an example, and for the most part, like for me, it's not so much of an issue because I'm a tinkerer. I pull these things apart 10 which ways to Sunday, trying to figure out how they make it. I like figuring out how the watch is made. That's just how my brain is. But there are times when it's just, you look at this and you're like, okay, what is it that they're trying to do now? But you can open up anything in here. So like slice mask. Let's do that. I'm gonna go here, slice mask. Here's the slice mask. Right click, open example patch. Don't save, and there's the slice mask. That's what the slice mask does. The slice mask node takes the mask of slices and converts them to shapes for you to work with. In this example, we use this node to create edges outside of our masks. So there it's being created as a mask, shape render, and then texture out.
So
But
it's
again,
kind of a matter of like going down each of those rabbit holes,
yeah.
to kind of like look at kind of learning by example for each different operator type.
And the disadvantage to it is that every time you go down one of these rabbit holes, you have to like one, remember what specifically you were looking at, and two, like saving the file if you were like if you wanted to remember this part and you wanted to save this or remember this information, you could either go back to that specific thing as long as you can remember it's the slice mask. But there have been times where I've gone down multiple rabbit holes and I've, 3 open example patches later, I'm going, what was that last one I was looking at? There's an easy way to fix that. Just screen capture everything.
Not a bad idea.
But like for instance, this is a slice render, and the slice render renders the slices to a texture using optional scaling methods and takes either material or color float 4 as a material. In this example, we demonstrate using either a float 4 texture as an example. Okay. So I mean, that's kind of helpful. See, here they're not even using a mask, they're just using slice render. So, okay, so the other thing is this one here. This is texture in. This is your output that or excuse me, your input. So whatever you're inputting from Resolume, that's where it's coming in, right? So you know how like you have your like this is your feed.
So that's what's going into the slice, essentially.
That's exactly.
Yeah.
And then your patch would go over the top of that as an effect. If it's a source, it's just going to be added into its own layer like normal. But the thing that I've always kind of struggled with is how that all kind of jives together, because I mean, ultimately a slice is nothing more than just a mask, isn't it? So why would you need a slice if you could mask? I think it's because the slices can be like quickly modified, but I mean, you could do the same thing with a mask again. Like I guess that's my question is, what is the difference between a mask and a slice?
Yeah, and I think, if there were any feedback that I wish I could pass back along up to the Resolume devs, well, there's probably a lot actually now that I think of it, but for this particular case, just even having like a little bit of like, what's the intent of, not only just some of these operators, but then also like understanding the data types too, because understanding like why some things convert better to others and like how to unpack one thing to another thing. Um, for instance, when you did like, I think it was the size of the mask shape or something like that,
Right.
like intuitively knowing to do that, like not exactly sure where you even find that in the documentation.
And in all confidentiality, this particular one, I actually saw one of their videos to use. And honestly, I
Oh,
had forgotten that that was even a feature. And I wish I remembered this because I actually was just working on a project. I was just working on a project where I needed to be able to do that.
got it.
And I'm wondering if I did int in, okay, so here's a slider. And then I go, just for my own grins and giggles, if I do like 15, and then I add this into here, oh, that's just amazing. Why did I not think of that before? Okay, but it's just the size. Okay, so this doesn't change that number. Like, it's still an integer, but it doesn't, this is, even though this is an integer, it's not passing that information along. This is only passing the info information along. So like if I do info, there's patch info, host info, slice info, and transport info. So for instance, if I do patch info, and we'll do host as well. So like for instance, here's a host, which is the name, right? If I type that in, it should, that's not a numerical value. Let's find something that is. Resolume, our resolution, here it is, 1920 There was a way this was used. There was a place where this was used, Jake. Remember where it was used? No, I don't remember. Maybe something like star, right? And then if you did this, it'll tell you how many. No, I forget where I even saw this. It was in one of the videos from the Resolume folks. They were showing it off as a way to find out how many somethings were in a like how many nodes there were. That was how they did that. And then I remember seeing okay, so okay. Pattern? Not pattern. Yes, pattern. Any of the patterns. If I have a pattern and it's set to 10 and I drag that in, that's what it is. Okay. So the size is the actual size of the instances. So that's what that is. This is the size of the instances, the incoming containers. So this is important to know because in some cases you can't actually pull it from like it's a count of how many instances I have available to me. So like for instance, you'll notice here it says 0 to 9. That means there's 10 instances because 0 is counted as because it's GLSL. The programming language, they always start at 0 and they go to like whatever number. So it's always like it is 10, but 0 is counted as 1.
So this could be a way to basically dynamically do like the switcher part of the network that you drew out when we first started talking about slices.
Yes.
So that way you know how many different choices there would be.
Correct.
Haha.
And I forget what I was looking for specifically that I was thinking about that. Oftentimes, a lot of the stuff that I mess with has been the inputs and the outputs. Some of this 2D stuff is kind of it's a vagary to me. I understand its purpose is like it's very similar to the shape, but there's a thing there. There's a reason why they want you to use 2D over the shape renderer, and I think it's because the 2D is not as memory intensive.
Oh, or maybe like GPU versus CPU.
Yes.
Performance.
And there's a good
in
example.
Designer world, you run into that with using stops versus tops.
Yes.
Stops are CPU, and then tops you can do way wilder stuff because that's on the GPU.
And I think that a good example is I have what is that called? Traffic slide. This one, I've had to rebuild this one multiple times because there's so much to it.
Oh yeah, I saw this on your. Wow, there's a lot to it.
Yeah, but see here, I actually have a Mesh 2D, and that's how I was able to build that. Instead of using Transform, I use this Mesh 2D, and there's a series of different.
Interesting.
And then I whittled that down so there's the background, the middle ground, and the foreground. So there's background, middle ground, and foreground, or excuse me, other way around: background, middle ground, foreground.
That might be a cool topic for a class. Like when to use 2D versus versus shape.
And even then, there's still an issue there because it has to do with it because it's a fragment shader. Like the problem with it, I've noticed, is like when I have two different fragment shaders that I'm using, like this one here, and then I add in this one here, and then I add this one in here. All these fragment shaders running together is not so much of an issue until I start like transitioning between them, and then that's when I noticed that there's an issue there, and it has to do with because of the rendering. But I agree with you. I know exactly what you're talking about. It's like when should I be using one versus the other? And they would say, well, when you're trying to do shapes like this, it would be smarter for you to use the like if you're using lots of shapes, then you should use the mesh 2D.
Hmm.
And but again, it's like, okay, but like if that's the case, then shouldn't you always be using mesh 2D instead? Like,
That's a really good point. If it's more performant.
yes. And the only thing I can think of is that maybe it's like vector versus 2D, maybe? Or like you're saying, like it's one's processor and one is CPU, and there may be cases. But again, I don't know why you would use one or the other. I run into this issue when I'm using, like, for instance, this one. You just saw it skip just a second ago.
Yeah, yeah.
When I go to this one, this is one of those cases where it's running a great deal behind the scenes. Oh, I know a perfect example. I'm going to have to close this in order to probably do it.
Yeah, I'd say one thing that stands out in my mind is like if I were to troubleshoot an issue like that in Touch Designer, there is that I forget what it's called. It's like a performance monitor, but you can basically see like how much load each one of your nodes is kind of putting on the whole network. But I don't know if there's anything similar in Wire yet to be able to
Yes.
kind of see like where's my bottleneck coming from.
Short version
Wow.
is yes, there is.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so here's a big one, right? This is Shattered. Shattered is basically making a series of pieces that. See if I can find an example. There. So here's a series of polygons that are drawn and randomly chosen. And one of the biggest issues is that polygons, like, so I worked this whole entire thing out. I basically made like a whole series of shapes that are randomly generated. So you push the generated button and then you get a different shape. So hit the trigger, there's a different shape. Hit the trigger again, different shape. And it randomly chooses from the different options that you have available. And there are 3 sets. Again, kind of a background, middle ground, foreground. But in this particular case, this whole setup is nothing more than these odd shapes that I created as a random generation from the 0 point, from the middle point, right? And together, that's what they look like.
Oh.
That part was okay. It was until I added this that it really started screaming at me. And it creates this kind of look. That's what this basically does. It takes the UV map.
Cool.
It takes the UV map and it randomly generates this
To kind of
pattern.
like displace each of the sections.
Exactly, because it adds a
Wow.
red, a yellow, a green in different places, and then merges it together with the UV map.
Whoa. That's some black magic. That's really cool.
I'm telling you, I thought I created fire with this, and I was just all kinds of excited, and I thought this was going to take off, and people were going to love this, but it,
And by fire, the CPU melted.
yes, very much so.
This is a really cool one, though. I could definitely see this. Wow, this is pretty awesome. Is this on your Juicebar?
Yep, it sure is.
Awesome.
The
Okay. This would
I was
be pretty rad for concerts, I think. Like especially like non-electronic music, like rock or metal.
and it does look cool, but the thing that I struggle with, or when I run it, is if you, so I have this trigger button that you can trigger it and randomly generate in new places, right? But I also have it set to transport beat, so let me just open up wire. Okay, and we'll just put it on here. We'll put it here. So if I run this, however, on it's not a source, it's an effect, and it's shattered. If I drag this on, oops, wrong thing. If I drag this on, it's fine when you just bring it into one. The CPU, the files per the frames per second is at 30, right? But as soon as I hit the transport beat, it just nukes the system. The fan should start in a little bit here.
Oh. Huh.
And that was my concern. It runs fine. It looks like it's running proper. If I click on this and run this, right? Actually, hang on, I can't do that. Let's put this circle echo here and turn that on and turn this one off, and we'll take it off of this one and just chuck it on here and then set that to trigger. You notice the VRAM is set to 71%.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can't see that part currently. That's under your bar, but 71%. Yikes. Okay.
Oh yeah,
That makes sense.
like that.
Oh, wow.
It's at 27%, and it is just cooked.
And this is not at 4K? Yeah, this set, what is it?
This is at 1920 by 1080.
Oh, okay.
And when I run it, it looks fine. But it's
Yeah, but
telling
once you
me
start setting other sending other stuff through it, it could probably.
I got through all of that, and I started running it in Wire, or started running it in Resolume, and I was like, this is amazing! And then I looked at this count, and I was like, ah, crap. I was like,
I still need to see that.
well. So that was that. So this one's fun. It was a good setup. But I do all kinds of crazy things. So there's this little patch here in the background. This is a free one. The Circle Echo. The Circle Echo actually has clip. There's a place. Oh, right here. So this one is randomly generating different colors.
Oh, cool.
And it can be set to random transport beat. And then the scale can change. So that's just the line scale that's been set to FFT.
Oh, nice.
And there really wasn't very much to set this up. This was actually ended up being one of our our wire tutorials that we were going through, that I set up through class. And honestly, to tell you the truth, this patch has really seen its debut. People really like this patch.
Yeah, it's a really cool one. It's very minimalistic, but pretty powerful.
And we ended up changing. The newest one actually has triangles. Where did I put that? Oh, right here. Okay. So then you have the triangle, circle, cross. Vesa. So you can do random color, or the two colors. You can choose your colors, and it randomly will regenerate every time you hit the transport beat. Or it's supposed to. It didn't. Did I set that wrong? Oh, I'm going to have to look at that. It's supposed to randomly change that on the beat as well, change the color. So then this one will be here and so on and so forth.
Oh,
but it's not doing that.
Oh, here's a random question for you. Like, if you make a change to, like, if you notice a bug in something that you put out on Juicebar, does Juicebar have like an auto update sort of thing?
You can resubmit it for a 2.0 version.
Oh,
is
okay.
what I typically do. So, you know how you do the Juicebar form? Do you know where that is?
Well, I've only consumed plugins. I've never actually. Oh, interesting.
So when you go to the compile, right here it says compile for Juicebar.
Oh,
And then you
that's
click on this
really cool.
link, and when you click on the link, it'll bring you to the publishing page, and you say this form, and then just fill this out.
Oh, wow, they make it really simple.
It's that easy. They'll send you a message a couple days later, and they'll say either they'll say yay or nay, they like it or they don't like it. I typically try my hardest to not make something that somebody else has already done, and if I do, I try my hardest to make it like have so many different features and functions and everything.
Mhm.
Like I try to throw the kitchen sink in because I really want to make sure that I'm not taking from somebody else.
This is definitely something that I think the Resolume ecosystem has a huge leg up on Touch Designer with. Um, that's really cool.
Yeah, I really do like it, and honestly, like without divulging too much information, I mean that's how I can pay for Wire and for Resolume for that matter.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
So I when I saw that, I was like, I wonder what else I could make.
Yeah,
And
I think it's really important to have a path to monetization, especially when you put out, all these awesome tutorials and things.
and I love doing it. It is lots of fun. I mean, this is tell me another program where you can do that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
I
right.
mean, there are plenty of them, but I mean I have this program. I have Pixel Composer, Filter Forge. There's another one, Material Maker, I think it is. And none of them really have any way of kind of monetization. Filter Forge, the problem with Filter Forge is like you can put them on their website and it's great. You could potentially get a free copy of their software uh, if your patch is downloaded enough times. And I have a couple patches up there and filter effects available on Filter Forge, but none of them do that well. This is another one of those programs. This is Pixel Composer. Pixel Composer is the same kind of thing, where you actually have a node-based system, but this is more 2D pixel kind of software or pixel kind of look. Uh, Trying to think of a good place to start. There's all kinds of crazy stuff. Draw shape, generate, and then you can do like there's a place in here. I just have to remember how this works. Shape, scale, shape, rectangle. That's what I was looking for. So there's all kinds of shapes, and you can scale them and rotate them and all of the stuff.
Never
And you
even
can,
heard of this one.
and it's pretty cool. They have some really good um, splash screen workshop. There's some of the ones that I've gotten from a couple different people. Let's do this one. And that's what it makes in the end.
That's really pretty cool.
Yeah. And this particular artist, and I'm trying to remember his name, but he does some great stuff on in Blender and in Material Maker and some other programs. And I've been watching his stuff for a while because some of this stuff definitely does not translate to Wire, but what does is super helpful. I pull apart his patches quite a bit. I call them patches, but really it's not a patch, I guess, in this program. But it's that same kind of thing, like drawing a gradient, blending it together, adding a curve, then blending that together. And so a lot of the steps are very similar. There's a displacement, and I was able to figure this one out or something similar to it. So like that's one of the things that I end up doing a lot is just reverse engineering what I see. So that would be a linear gradient like that, and then I would basically take that linear gradient and I would data and plug that into here. And like that, then make it a, we want to expand that EXPAND, and then put that here, and then put that here. Actually, let's do 10 here and then 5 here. Like that. And then, oh, like this. I did it this way the last time. Because I just figured out just recently you can take the gradient and change it into a palette. I'm not sure if that's a new thing. Maybe I still need to do data though. Yeah. Okay. So then the reason why I set it up this way is because the expand, you can go ping pong. And so now I have black, gray, lighter gray, even lighter gray, and white. And then in reverse, right? So then if I take this one and I change this to stepped, now I have those going this way. And so then you take a displacement, displace, video shape effect. Okay, so you take this, plug this into here. No, sorry. Not displace. It's the UV one. UV, offset, plug that into the offset. And then take a something as easy as the texture out. Texture in, not texture out. Plug this into here. And then you can change the gain. And now you have that gradual step UV offset.
That's really cool.
And then if you know how this is set up, you could technically then just transition these colors here so that it goes. So what you do is you do a color rise like that, and then plug this into here, plug this into here. And then what you're going to do is do another linear gradient, and you're going to expand it, and you're going to do texture from data. But in between these, you're going to put in a shift. And the shift is going to shift the color. So I'm going to plug that in there, plug this into here, plug this into here under palettes, plug this into here. And so now you take a saw oscillator and you give it a count of 10 and you plug that into your shift. And so now you're cycling through the colors. And now you get this.
Oh, super glitchy.
Mm-hmm.
That's fun.
And then because it's skipping at the top here, technically I think that's this number. No, the other way around. I'm sorry. 1 here and 0 here. So now it's just like sliding across. And then you could speed this up. Could 0.15, and then you could wrap it. So yeah.
This has been super helpful. Thank you. I do have to jump off though, but thanks for thanks for walking through everything and also entertaining my questions on slices. That was you saved me many hours because I've already probably sunk like at least a dozen into trying to figure out what I was doing wrong there. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. I understand exactly where you're coming from. If there's anything I can, if there's something you need explained, let me know. I will. If I don't know the answer, I know where I can pull resources to find out.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much.
No problem.
Have an awesome night.
You too. Thank you for stopping by. Viscosity, Verona air mask, ISF. Is this the one? Yes, this one. Okay, so technically you're doing the same thing here. You could then just basically choose a yellow color, choose a red color, choose a black color, and then choose a green color. And so now you have that same kind of effect. Change
Right.
your outline. Actually, you would just take the outline out altogether. Can I do that? Edge detection. Yes. So if I unplug this, there. So just for grins and giggles, how would that look? If I did a UV texture and a UV, I connected those with a video mixer like that, and plugged this into here, plugged this into here, and then set this to overlay, I think. And then I just ever so slightly, because it's very easy to go overboard with this.
Right.
Because it's like in points, texture, in it's an offset. Okay, so then that should be. It's just how much you push this. So that's the values there, and that's what the red and green looks like. So now all I have to do is increase this number. But see, it's doing something funny there because the multiplier is set to 1, right? But it's not in all directions. So if I turn this one on, it now displaces it. Because this is just 1, 1, so that means that it's negative is this direction, negative is that direction. So it'd be up and to the right, displaced. Because the UV offset is just a displacement. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Is it unpack? I think it's unpack. Unpack.
It fakes Z depth? Or like
It fakes
Z
Z depth.
distance?
It doesn't use it. It doesn't use it, but it's there. Yeah.
Interesting.
I can't find a dang thing about this. So any questions you might have, I am more than happy to try to figure those out, because I have tried every which way to Sunday to understand how that works. Like, I've looked up computer books, I've asked ChatGPT. Okay, so one of the burning desires that I have is, how do I take this UV texture, split it into the 3 pieces, right? So if I do grayscale, it's basically all it is it's just a red channel, green channel, blue channel, going from black to white, right?
Mm-hmm.
Same thing here, just black to white in a vertical direction. So if I wanted to mess with this one, right, just the red, the green, so things are up and down, how would I do that? Like, I can't put. Like, I thought, okay, well, I'll just do a video mixer, is what I was thinking. Video mixer. And I could just put the red, green, and blue channels here. I could just create 4 channels, and then just take the alpha, because there's nothing to that one. The blue, there's nothing to that one. And then just add the 2. But the problem is that I don't get the same effect. Now, the reason why I don't get the same effect here is because this one's not red and this one's not green. But I can fix that by just doing a colorize. Here's the red channel. Plug that in here. And then here's the green channel. Green. So here's the same red and green, and that's green. Okay, good. Just making sure. And I get this. Like, this is not even close to this. And I've tried every which way to Sunday to make it work. And I'm like, I got nada. Like, I thought, okay, well, then maybe it's a different, like, mode. And maybe this needs to be set to 0.5, 0.5, 0.5. That's close. Exclusion. But the problem is that this is exclusion, which means it's backwards. Or at least I think that's what it means. So if I have a gray here, and then I take, like, let's just say, just for grins and giggles, just to see what this looks like. If I take a shape, yeah, that, no, not that, chevron, just for something. Here's a chevron, gradient, change it to black and white. There's the gradient. Okay, so this one is going left to right. So we're going to do horizontal, and this is in the opposite direction. I'm going to take this one and this one, take this one, make this a mask, then take this one, plug it into this one at the top, make this one the mask. And so now I have that color in the middle. And then I want to take these two and merge them together. I could join them. Video mixer. Well, and I know this video mixer is not 100% like a layer mask. That's a little bit different. Like, I don't think these values go from 0 to 1. And the reason why I think that is because we're on, well, I'll give you an example. Multiply, right? We're on multiply right now. If I pull this back, it's the way in which it interacts. Well, that one looks pretty close. You could do, okay, 4. But I don't think multiply does it either. But you notice this one almost does it. Actually, this is pretty close, probably. But you'll notice that this red area here down at the bottom, as soon as I hit the add, it's like it's darker in this corner. And see, there is screen here if I go here. But like I said, like, okay, so it's set to screen right now. As soon as I drag this off, it acts differently. You'll notice that right there, it looks like it. And there are tons of like different options, but like finding the right one, sometimes it's like, okay, that looks like it could be it.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, crap. There is also a way you can take your unpack and then repack it. And you can add like numerical values to your pack and unpack, which is great, but it doesn't. It's close, but it's not. It's like you can't add in like a texture and then pack it all back together. So I'm always like trying to find new ways of making it all work. That's that. And then if I do like 0.09, so now it's just slightly off kilter, and then I add in this.
Right.
And this is set to overlay. I can do like screen. There is screen in here. So this is screen. So it's close. I'm So, but that's the reason why I was like, I would love a Voronoi, and I've tried every which way to Sunday because this is really this is the closest I've ever gotten. There's speed, so that's kind of nice. And there's all kinds of crazy stuff you can do with Voronoi. There's brightness. But I used an ISF generator to do that, and there's a couple things there that I'm not particularly sure on, because Voronoi is not I don't think it's like copyrighted. Well, actually it is copyrighted, but like I don't know what that means. Like, so then if you use this, like how is it an issue? Like, I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Is it an issue for using it? And that's the reason why I've just kind of shied away from it. it's nice. It's good to have and something I can play around with internally. But externally, I've been kind of like shying away from it. It's very much like the touring. Like I didn't want to make a patch that I'm selling for touring, and then be worried about whether or not I was doing something not necessarily illegal, but kind of untoured. This one? This was I just did this this morning, actually, or this afternoon.
And it's minimal too, which is awesome. It just pops.
Yes. That was what I liked about it too, was that it was like very simplified. There doesn't is it this one? No, this is the other one. This is the other one that I was making the other night. That was fun. I'm sorry, I squirrel. Okay, that's the crossfader shapes. What was the other one called? So that's the other problem. I need to find a different way of naming them.
Yeah.
And it's really not like I didn't think it was going to be. I thought it was going to be a lot harder than it ended up being. Like I thought this was going to be a royal pain in the neck to set up. Now the only thing that is an issue is it's not really an issue, but it's just something I've noticed. Is you'll notice that there's this line here. That's because well, there's a couple reasons. Let me set this to yellow. So now it's kind of oscillating, like in a what do they call that pattern? It's a ping pong, right? So when it renders, where's the darn shift expand? Oh, I don't have a texture. Data. So it's seamless in like it's in on itself, right? It's this expand here. It's not set up. But I'm kind of setting it up here by basically just having two sets of colors. And instead of using this expand, I am using expand, I'm sorry. So it's set to ping pong. And so now you have this red, yellow, where if you do repeat, it doesn't show up here. I was doing it like this. It gets that. So I ran into this problem where I was trying to figure out, like, okay, I did it like this, and I thought, okay, I'll just do a ping pong. And then when I tried to do the colors, you could see there was like a line in it.
Yeah, the banding.
Yeah. And it has to do with like if you do a circle one, you see where the end of the path is because they're all like because one is in front of the other. So as it's going around, it makes its full cycle, but when it gets to the end, you see that very last one very stark. It's a little bit different here because of how it's set up. 120 different circles in this pattern. So if you really want it to be buttery smooth, you're going to need more than just 120. You're going to need to double that in size. So like for instance, there's 3 patterns here and there's 120 circles. There's more than 3 patterns because it's two sets of 90. So so like what you would do is then you would increase this number, and just keep going down the line. So like that. Now it's more buttery smooth because there's more circles in between. You can barely even see I can see them on my end. There's just a few small bandings, but it's where the blue and the bright green are. You can really see the bright green. Like you could do like red. And I was just sitting here playing around with them, tinkering.
Dude, that looks amazing, dude.
Thanks. But I've been trying to make all kinds of different shapes. So lately, what I've been doing is I've actually just been Pinterest has been my friend. I've gotten to a point where when it comes to making patches, like I'm always looking at different ideas, and I'm like, oh yeah, I can do that. I can make that happen. I can do that. And then I realized to myself, okay, put your money where your mouth is and make them. And when I try to go and make them, I'm like, oh yeah, I guess I didn't account for X, Y, or Z. And so then I'm having to take those challenges and recreate them. And I'm learning so much from that. Like this patch is a perfect example of this because I started trying to think, okay, now how do I, like, numerically, how would that work? Because this is like X, Y, Z coordinates. And so over here is -5, -5, +5. So it's like this is your X coordinates and these are your Y coordinates down here. And in order to make this work, I had to create a linear line this direction, a linear line this direction, and a linear line this direction. But in both instances, or all three instances, there's an X and Y for this one, an X and Y for this one, and an X and Y for this one. So there's essentially 6 like sets of linear that you have to set up in order to make it work, because you have to have the X and Y at the same time in order to do that. Which in turn makes 180. Okay, so right at this moment, I'm running at 53% VRAM, which is not bad. It's at 60 frames a second, so it's not terrible. And actually, there's only 2 sets, right? So that's here. There's one here and one here, and then I'm just repeating them. So here's your transform. And then I join those 2 transforms together, and then I have one set there and one set there, and then I put all 3 of them together. So kind of cutting corners, because that means that the other 2 sets are not independent. They're just that. They're just duplicates. They're not
it's like an instance.
independent. Yes. So I don't know. So the thing that I need to figure out is how much can I push that? Like, at what point, if I were to make like multiples of them and have them separate, how many could I get on the screen before my computer decides to puke? But these are fun because so like you could do, so these are made out of a circle pattern, right? So I can just like that. And now you can see my misfortune right there.
It has a stylistic quality to it, you know?
Yes. But I was trying to figure out, okay, so how do I remove that? And I was like, oh, no problem. I'll just put that in behind like you would do in Photoshop. And then I was like, okay, but this is not Photoshop, so how would you do that? So this circle pattern here, this is the shape renderer. This part right here, okay, so I'm going to bring this down to 10. That's how it is. Okay, so this one is overlapping. So then how would you tell it anything within this area would need to be under this one? You can do a within. I don't know how much that would affect your processing too, because then you have to take that into consideration as well. Maybe if I did like the radius -0.35. Same thing.
Mm-hmm.
About -50. Is that possible? No, it's just 1, so 50. It only goes in one direction, so unfortunately it won't make the transition to the other side. I'm gonna have to play with that. Because the other thing that I was thinking was, and that's how I actually ended up with the noodle thing, was I was thinking, well, then I could just take one, flip it upside down, and technically that should work. Right? So if I do a flip, and I take that one, and I flip it horizontal and vertical, I think, and then join the 2 of those, right? Because then one would be under the other. But same problem. And if I mix them, if I cross them the opposite direction, same problem. Okay, so here we're doing 50, and in the crossfader, we're doing 100. So if I change this to 100, and you still see it right there. So there's 100 revolutions.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the linear, and it's expanding. Hang on, let me think about this. So that would be the crossfader, and then shift. And then what I would need to do is, because this is, okay, so then curves here, curves. And then, but this would need to be quadratic out. Still does it though. Yeah, I've actually, so the triangle one, right? You could technically do that same thing in a square. I don't think that that would be too much of an issue because all you're doing is just basically taking a linear and pointing it in the opposite direction. So if I do like, okay, don't save. It's a linear and it'd be X and Y coordinates, right? So then you would have to have two linears and then you would need a circle. Wrong circle, not that circle, the other one. And you would need to then take a transform. And then you take the circle, put the circle there, and then this needs to be a float 2. Float 2. And then this needs to be 0.15. Then take this one. Okay. To start things off, this would be negative 0.5 to negative 0.5. Then the x would be negative 0.5 to 0.5. And those would be joined. This would be 4. And then these two would be over here. This one would be a join. And this is actually the X and Y. So actually that would not be there. This would be here. This would be here. This one would be here. This one would be here. This one goes here. This one goes here. Then this joins here and this joins here. This joins here. Okay, there. Okay, so now we have one line going one direction. And I don't know why that's there. But we'll mess with that later. It might be because I have other things going on. Okay, so then I take this one here, put this here, then take this one like that. And then we're going to take these, drag these down here. Like that. Okay. So I'm going negative 5 to positive 5.5, and then from positive 5 to positive 5, hang on. Negative to positive, positive to negative, negative, positive. No, positive, positive. And then positive, negative. 1, 2, 3. Okay. So that takes care of that direction. Then actually I could probably just repeat these. So I could take that out, and that out. Okay, so now I started on this side. I need to go positive, positive, which is this one. And then don't want that. Negative, negative, no, positive, positive. Positive, 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 negative. Positive, negative. That's not right. Negative, negative, 0.5. That's not right either. Okay. Negative. Which direction are these? negative, 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 positive. No, it's positive, positive. Positive, negative. That's what I'm doing. Positive, negative, 0.5 to negative 5. And then negative, negative. There we go. Okay. Now that that hoopla has been figured out, that's the crap part. Technically, now that we have this all set up, what I could do is just create a float. No, sorry, float in. Like that, and then set this to like, we'll just set it for 200. We're not going to go to 200, but we'll just set it to 200. Take this and drag this to here. Why is that not allowing me to drag there? Oh, because it's a linear, so that means it needs to be an int in, and it needs to be set to 200. And then this needs to be then, I can't do that either. All right, whatever. We'll just do it the other way. 50, 50, 50. There. Okay, now that that's all created, then I just need to take that entire pile of stuff. There's 200 of them. Do another linear. Make that a color. Shape renderer. Expand. Set this one to 100. Set this one to 200. Connect the two together. Then connect this one to this one.
Looks great.
I'm going to just add a shift. And that. And then saw oscillator like we did before. Yes, hi. What's up? There. So all this is just basically you're just setting your XY coordinates. So this is a line. Basically, that's all this is here. You're basically creating 4 lines and you're joining the 4 lines together. These are all the X values. This set here is your X values, and this set here is your Y values. And really how this works, however, is that this one and this one are connected. This one and this one are connected, and so on and so forth. The other two are connected to each other. And they're each other's X and Y values for the transition or the transform. So then it basically says, in those linears, I have 50 points. And the same 50 points are, these are the Y values for those 50 points. And so it's just basically giving all 50 different points for each circle. And then it puts them together as an XY with a float 2. And then that creates this. The color is just basically saying there are 100 colors. I'm going to expand it to a ping pong of 200. And then I'm going to shift those 200 with a saw oscillator. A saw oscillator just basically counts to 200 and then goes back to the beginning and counts it over. So honestly, to tell you the truth, you probably should have I should put on a unipolar, because it's not going to go from negative 200 to 200. Instead, it's going to go from 0 to 200 because you have unipolar set on, which means it starts the value at 0 and it keeps counting to 200. And once it gets to 200, it skips back to the beginning. You don't see that transition because of the fact that it's flawless. The end looks like the beginning. That actually kind of looks better than the triangle. And then the rest of it is you could technically just go merge. Actually, let's not merge. Let me think about this for a second. How did I do that last time? I think I did a union. Maybe I didn't do a union. Maybe I did a merge. Maybe it was a merge. Yeah. Okay. So there's that. And then you just join the two of them together. This one goes on the bottom because when you're using a join, the bottom is the front and the top is the bottom. It's reverse. And then we'll set this to like blue. And we could set this one. Colorize. There. Change these two colors. Mind is going to love that one.
Yeah, this looks great. Put a little logo right in the middle. Boom.
And actually, is this backwards? Let's see. Oh, yeah, I guess maybe it is backwards. But I can do outer and then or do both. Do both because then it'll overlap on the middle. There. So now there. So now it'll cover those areas. Yeah, that's dope. So technically that means you can do pretty much any shape. Now, as far as curve, the only thing that I could think of is technically right here where your transform is, you could technically do, it's called round. Not that one, the other one. One's for math, one's for shapes. So if you did round here, I think you could connect that here, connect that there, and then you could bend this. But the problem is that it doesn't bend it the proper way. Shit. Excuse my language. Not there. Let's take this and shape it here, maybe? No, it's not going to allow me to do it there. But what about that other one? Not that one, the other one, Jake. No, it's not going to do that one. Okay. What is this going to take? Slice, and that's going to take a slice. So that's not going to work. You would have to find a way to bend the lines. So a curve. So you would have to know, okay, so this value here, let's go back to this picture. This helps me visualize. So -5 to -5, that's on this side here. So if you wanted this to bend that way, that's going to be your, I always get this mixed up. I think that's your Y direction. So that would be this one. So then, because it's going from -5 to +5, the 0 value is here, And just think you have a line going across here and a line going across here. This side is your negative, this side is your negative positive, this is your positive positive, and this is your positive negative. This is your negative negative. So if 0 is here, this is -5 in this direction, -5 in this direction. So that's a long way of me saying this set of numbers here need to drag out this way. And if this is going from -5 to +5, how the heck would I do that? No, it would have to be the shoot. Well, that's one direction. So one is X and one is Y. So you're saying -5, -5. That's -5 and -5. That's basically saying it's on the left side. Okay, so that means you would need to bend this number. So then this would have to be like a curve, right? And if I'm doing this correctly, and you would have to set it there and set it here. And then you would have to say this is 0.5. I'm sorry. The minimum is -0.5, and the positive is -0.6. And it would have to be like quadratic or. That's moving it that direction, but we want to bend it. Why are you not bending? I'm doing this wrong. I'm thinking about this wrong. Because that's because this is not a value system. So actually what I need to do is this is a series of negative numbers. So what I need to do is not that. I need to add in a linear. Okay, there's 50 here if I did 25. So what I would need to do is do another linear. Okay, I would need to set that to 25. Okay, and then what I would need to do is then expand this. The fact that I'm actually getting this is going to drive is like scary if this works. Okay, and then I'm going to expand this to 50. Do you see where I'm going with this? Because then I'm going to tell it go from like just add -0.1 to 0. Okay? And then that's going to create a box of 50 that need to be added to this one. But I don't know if this is the right direction. This is either going to go to the left or it's going to go to the right. It's going to do one of the two. Yes. And this just needs to be set to ping pong. And then this just needs to have a curve.
Oh.
Oh my god, my brain's going to explode. Okay. This is going to be probably a negative number. If I had to guess, it's probably going to need to be -0.1. And then this is going to need to be like quadratic in or quadratic out. Maybe 1 again. No. The minimum is actually -1. Maybe -0.1. And then the value in the middle is 0. So close, yet so far away. Because it needs to be like 0.1 or -0.1. And that's not right because all my values are 0 now. 0 to 1. And what does this do? 0 to 1 does what? It just gives me all 0 values. This is giving me these values. -0.1, -0.9, 8, 7, 7, 6, 5, 5, 5, 4, 4, 4. Why does that not look like... That does not look like... Oh, I know why. Because that's... with the expand, that's going to go, okay, so that's correct. So then my problem is here, these values. So it needs to be something with this. So I want to say this needs to be a negative 0.1 to 0. And then if I did a quadratic in or quadratic out, that should then change the numbers, but they're not changing. What curve does is it bends. Okay, so the best way I can explain this is if I were to take a linear curve, okay, or a linear color set. So here's your linear, you change this to color, and so then we'll change this to data. There's the easy, not date, data. And what we'll do is we actually change this. We take this and plug this in here. So this is our color values. This is the easiest way I can represent this. This is 1, this is 0. Or excuse me, other way around. This is 0, this is 1, right? So if I take this curve and I plug this into the middle of this, and I tell it the value is from 0 to 1, I get the same values. However, it's heavier handed on the quadratic out versus the other direction. So if I change this back to linear, you'll notice that the grays changed. There's more gray values here. It pushes those values that direction. And so then that's how I was able to, okay, so let's go back here. That's how I was able to do this, right? See how it's indented in? And actually these are going the wrong direction. These actually need to be 0.01, right? Because we want them to go the other direction. But actually, maybe this needs to be -1, and there we go, right? And then this needs to be 0, maybe. So now, what it's saying is, add to these numbers here, this direction. So this is my linear, okay? And it's saying all of them are on the -0.5. So on this -0.5. I want to add 0.1, excuse me, 0 to 0.1. So I should get like -0.09, 0.01, 0.02, 0.03, 0.04, 0.05, 0, almost 6. Okay. When I add those to this, or excuse me, set up the expand, that's the reason why it jets out like it does, is because the expand is doing a ping pong, which means it's doing the opposite direction. So that's great. So now what I need to do is curve this edge, and this one will follow suit because it's based on this mirror, basically. This ping pong is nothing more than a mirror. So what I need to do is I need to make this curve, this here, somehow connected here to curve it.
Yeah, because the linear node output is actually coordinates, right?
Yes. It's all the coordinates for the X direction. You know, those.
Right.
Whatever that's called. Sorry, I'm getting punchy. All right. So, see, but then it just goes right back to 0 and 1.
Yeah, thanks for the explanation. I totally understand how you're doing it now.
But what I don't understand, okay, so then it must be here is what I'm thinking is that it's not curving from 0 to 1. Because if I turn this to linear, it doesn't take those values into consideration. Maybe because the curve option doesn't do decimals, maybe? I gotta get any different value? Okay, so it's not that. So what if I just did 0.1? 0.1 to 1? -0.1 to 0? Yeah, I'm close, but I feel like I'm just not. It's so close.
But what's coming out of the linear color gradient? Like, what's the data coming out of that?
Those are not whole numbers. Those are decimal points as well. So technically, I think that should work. But maybe it's because it's negative numbers, not positive ones. And what about a ramp? Because wouldn't a ramp do the same kind of thing? Or it's not a ramp. It's a math thing. You know, it's the math. I don't think that. No, there's not. There's pi. Return the pi constant. And for all those programmers out there, I feel bad for you. You're probably looking at us banging your head. If I do a map, if I connect this here, then connect this here, then I'm going to set this from 0.2 negative point to negative 0.2 and do the same thing here to, and then
Oh,
dude,
dude,
holy crap.
that's awesome. Oh, bro, that is awesome.
Okay, so then, you know
Yeah.
what? I didn't even think about this. Okay, so this is a transform, right? I just thought of a way that you could do this without even having to do all this. Like, this is so stupid. See, this is the kind of thing that like I will work on something to the nth degree, and then I'll realize, oh hey, I could have done that easier. You know how I could have done that easier? I could have taken this here with a crossfader, and then what I could have done is just taken a circle pattern. Circle pattern like that. Boom. Then said 200. Boom. Then take this, plug this into... Okay. So it won't allow me to plug that in. Why is that? Because that's not where I plug it in, Jake. That's why. Go back. Go back. Take this one, plug it in here. Change this. This is the float. This one goes here. This one goes here. Then take a circle pattern. Like that, then change this one to 200. And then take this, plug this into here, and then we got that into a circle. A little backwards, but that's also probably because this needs to come out now. Let's take that out, put this over here, put this back over there, take this out. Ooh. Okay, and try the crossfader. Sort of. So, yeah. There are multiple ways to do the same thing. You just have to figure out which way works the best. They're all changing positions.
Yeah.
And it's because the circle pattern is probably in the wrong start. It's probably needing to be like 1. So if I set this to 0.5, it's probably it's where the values are is basically what the short version of it is. All these values are in different places, and so the reason for this is because this starts at 0.5 and -0. Okay? So that means 0.5 and -0, well, -0. Okay, so it starts in I'm honestly not sure where it starts. I would suspect to believe that it's over here. No, that's the end. But that's also the beginning. So, okay, so short version. Okay, short version is we start here, okay, and this one starts a negative. So it's where it starts. Most likely, it would be that because this is 0.5, this one would have to go first. So, okay, so short version. The circle is starting at a different starting point than the rest of it. So if we actually did a shift, actually would be the easiest way to fix this, rather than trying to figure out how the square needs to start and end. Take this and shift the numbers. So now we just need to shift those numbers like this. And then, not that one, this one. That goes there. Okay, so we need to move that like here. There. Did that make sense?
Brilliant. Amazing, bro.
So that's a good place to end it.